Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about functions, specifically about how to define them. As a review of last time about for loops, they are a control structure that runs a block of code repeatedly by iterating over elements in a sequence. And a sequence can be a string or some numbers. So we saw that for variable in sequence, execute code. And we also talked about for variable in some range from start to end, execute some code. We talked about in a for loop where we use in some sequence, variable is always a string. When we do for variable in range, variable is always an integer. For loops are important because they give us the ability to do something a certain number of times, and we don't need to copy and paste code over and over again to repeatedly do something. So today we're going to talk about functions and how to define them. We'll talk about what functions are, why they're important, and take a look at some examples of some. So a few classes ago, we wrote a while loop to guess my password. Here's the code for that. While the password is not my password, we're going to ask the user to guess my password. If it's correct, we'll print access granted. If it's wrong, we're going to print wrong password. What if we want to continue with that code? And once the user logs in properly, we're going to write some code for the user to do some things. And eventually, we'll probably have to write some code for the user to log out as well. And once they're logged out, we probably want them to log in again. So what should we do there? We could copy and paste the code here. But what if the user needs to log in again after this for some security purpose? Copy the code again? What if we need it in 3 more places? What about 5 more places? What if we want to change the string access granted to welcome? Are we going to have to find this code in all the places we use it and change that string? Probably if we copied and pasted it. So we are going to use a function to kind of solve this problem of copying and pasting code that we need in multiple places. What are functions? So functions are where we give a name to a block of code that does something. We can reuse the code without having to copy and paste it everywhere we want to use it. And each function should be responsible for some specific functionality, like having a user guess my password. We can perform a specific task with a function. So let's take a look at what a parking machine does. When you leave the parking garage, you need to give the machine a ticket. The machine is going to calculate how much time has passed and then show you how much you have to pay. So this is an example of a reusable machine that performs a specific task. Similarly, a function is going to have reusable code that performs a specific task. So let's talk about variables versus functions. Variables memorize data, and we give name to these values. Functions are going to memorize code or a block of code and give a name to that block of code. So we've actually already been using functions. We've used int of the string 6. This is a reusable function that we've used many times. It takes some data and gives an int. We've used input of something. So again, this is reusable. It takes a question, gets the user input, and returns a string that could be put into a variable. We've also talked about range 2, 5. This is also reusable. It gives numbers from the first number to the second number, not including the second number. So Python provides these functions that we can use. And today we're going to learn how to write these ourselves.